radio. Let's see. Here we go. All right, we're live. Charles Moscowitz here. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Welcome to the program. It is a pleasure and it is an honor to welcome Monsignor Hilary C. Franco to the program today. He is the author of the new book, Six Popes, A Son of the Church Remembers. His Father Franco is an advisor at the Permanent Mission of the Holy See to the United Nations. He was ordained a priest in Rome at 22 years old, received a doctorate in biblical theology before the age of 24 from the Pontifical Lateran University in Rome. He attended Fordham University in New York, where he earned a master's degree in sociology, earned another degree in canon law at Lateran University. He's also the author of Bishop Sheen, Mentor and Friend. Father Franco, thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, first of all, I should say up front that I don't happen to be Catholic myself. I'm a Jewish.
It's all right. I have so many most of the Jewish jokes that I know.
Oh, good.
I know them because, people like Georgie Jessel and Harry Harshfield and Jock Benny used to come to the house when I was with Bishop Sheen. That goes to show you.
And Bishop Sheen, I think, picked up on some of that because he was amazing.
Yeah, we had.
And he always would begin his sermons with a joke. And I'm a big admirer of Bishop Sheen. I have to tell you, he is one of the fathers of talk, television, and radio.
Yeah. We had a small audience. I hope you will have the same. We had a small audience of 40 million people.
Something like that. Yeah.
Letters a week.
and he was truly a great man because I think that he crossed over for everyone, all Americans.
Sure.
Inspired him.
Our audience 40% Catholic, 30% Jewish, and 30% Protestant. That goes to show you, it was
even the Protestants.
Yeah. Yes.
No, it's he was a great figure in the 1950s.
Tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah, and he also was, and I admire him for this. He was a strong anti-communist at a time when the country needed to understand what communism was and contrast that with our American system. Yeah. And I think for that reason, he really had a huge influence, and it was a great crossover.
Yeah.
Also just a charismatic man and a great speaker. And, from a radio standpoint, I admire him immensely.
He started on radio,
Right.
For a long time, he had his program, Bishop Sheen Hour, the Catholic Hour actually at that time.
Sure.
And then in 52, he started on television.
Uncle Pulte. Yep. So you have been a friend of popes from Pope John the 23rd right up to Pope Francis of today. So you have been really on the inside of the Roman Catholic Church and the hierarchy in Rome. And, I believe that all Americans, all people of the world, have a stake in the welfare and in the moral strength of the Catholic Church, whether we're Catholic or not, because the Roman Catholic Church is one of the great arbiters of the Word of God. There's no question about that. And so I care very much about seeing that the Catholic Church is right. I say this as an outsider. I know I don't have any right to say, I don't have any stake in it, but just as an observer, I want to look to that church. And I think that most Jews do as well, by the way, at least most of us who are more conservative and who are concerned with the Torah and with the Word of God, that we want to see that church fly right. We want to see things holding up in a way that it exemplifies the best nature of itself. So talk a bit about, because you started out in Rome with Pope John the 23rd, who launched Vatican II.
Correct. Actually, let me put it this way. The six popes. I served all these six popes. I worked for them, and beginning with, as I said, the beginning of the council, the Second Vatican Council was really as you do know, even for the Jewish people, we had a special document issued, which really opened it. So it was so beautiful when John the 23rd received a Jewish group of people, and he came down from his throne, and he actually embraced them. He said, "Well, here is Joseph, your brother." Namely, going back, to the beautiful story of Joseph in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And that was John the 23rd, having this way of almost embracing the world, opening his arms, and like fleshy columns of Bernini, embracing the world. And that had nothing to do with, well, being Catholic naturally was his source of strength and whatever, but naturally he continued this kind of, and the mere fact that he convened the council, he actually started, he proposed the council in 1959, but then we opened on the 11th of October, 1962. And we had observers coming from all of the other religions, including your Jewish religion, naturally. And it was a tremendous experience to see these 2,625 fathers of the church, bishops coming from all over the world for the first time, so many, discussing issues that concern not only the Catholic Church, but the whole world, the whole globe, the problems that we had. And that was really a great experience for me as a young man. Then at that council, at one point, I became friends with a young man who was coming from a place called Krakow in Poland. He had just been named an auxiliary bishop of Krakow. I think you remember the name. Probably I might remember the name. His first name was
yeah, right.
So we became friends then. We were rather young. He was older than me, but we continued this kind of friendship until that was that particular day, the 16th of October, 1978, and I was in my car. I remember, and I heard the radio saying, "Oh, there is a white smoke there." So I went around and I went back to the square to find out that this, the Cardinal Felici announced there is someone by the name of, everything was in Latin now, Carolum. When he said Carolum, it means Charles. And I said, wait a minute. At that time, only Italians would be named, elected popes. And I said, it can't be, because the only cardinal with the name Carlo or Carolum was Cardinal Confalonieri, who was 85 years old. I said, it certainly cannot be that. And then immediately after, the last name came. And I said, oh, my friend. So what happened was, not even a month after he was elected, his secretary called me and he said, the Pope is coming to your office. Oh, by that time, well, I have to say that I was in the Vatican for 26 years. I worked in the Vatican. So when he said that, I said, well, you better remind him. And he's Pope. He said, because he's Pope, you can't tell him anything anymore. That's it. That was it. And so he came, all the photographers were coming. I have beautiful pictures,
Oh, that's incredible. And it is very humble man. And
yes, very, very, very.
Right.
It was a
very spiritual,
a saintly man, a saintly human being. And he really, like John the 23rd, he embraced the world. Yes. And also Paul the Sixth, if you knew him personally, Paul VI, this is really, it gave a tremendous example of strength, because the council was such an important event. You did not want to take the responsibility to continue the council, the Second Vatican Council. He could have said, well, listen, John the 23rd died on the 3rd of June, 1963. So he figured, well, that's the end, And instead, he had the courage to continue that council, and he continued with great teaching until 1978.
I recall Paul, because I was pretty young at the time, but I recall that he was seen as more conservative and as someone who was kind of reining in maybe some of the excesses of the Vatican II. I remember, I think it was in 1968. I think I was like 10 years old at the time, but I grew up with mostly with Catholic friends, and there was this canon released from the Pope's office. I think it was Humanae Vitae, I believe.
Humane Vitae, yes.
Humanae Vitae.
Vitae,
And
yeah.
it had like a effect of an earthquake. I remember everybody was talking about it, that this was like, it was almost like a real, I mean, it maybe, I don't know if this is a reflection of the Vatican maybe having more influence then than it does now. I hope not. But the thing is that was a big, big deal. And what was that about?
Well, I'll tell you. Well, first of all, I mean, I wrote a book on Bishop Sheen. My mentor and friend. So he used whatever. I have gotten so much from him naturally. Like you and your friends. When you were young. So
Yeah.
I learned so much from this exceptional man. And he used to tell me all the time. He said, I hate those like laborious, conservative and liberal.
Right.
There is no such thing in the church. He used to tell me, remember, we have one church, one teaching, and so on and so forth. I might have my own like view of some things of the church, and you might call them conservative or liberals. Now, in the case of Paul VI, definitely, I would not define him conservative, only because, naturally, as you say, 1968, he came with Humana Vitae and talk about, well, against birth control and so on and so forth. That some people thought that it was, but he was certainly not conservative. He was himself. Actually, he was like in the middle of the way, and he put the two groups together. Well, let me remind you of a very important event. In 1965. We're talking about during the council. The council will end on the 8th of December, 1965. Now, during the council, I will never forget, I was in the council on the 15th of September. He came down to the hall to tell us something. Well, he told us, he said that the Secretary General of the United Nations, I'll never forget that moment, came to see us. In those days, still the Pope said us instead of me, whatever, and came to see us. And we accepted his invitation. Actually, this is a scoop. At that time, the United Nations were really in danger of almost closing, and so the presence of the Pope would have given a great, support to the institution. So what happened was that he told us, well, we have decided to go to New York and address the United Nations. That happened on the 4th of October, 1965. Now, that was the first time that a Pope was coming to the United States to address the United. I mean, it was an incredible thing. And it's interesting that he stayed only from 8 in the morning until 11 p.m. at night, one day. But
flew in, did the gig, and left.
We had a mass at the Yankee Stadium. We had a lot of things, the cathedral, whatever, but especially when he cried out in that hall, war, never again, war, never again. You needed some courage to do those kind of things. Paul VI did.
Oh, no, very, very powerful moment. Yeah. And I also understand that, I mean, if you look at the Catholic system, it's not left or right. I mean, it certainly is anti-communist because they're atheist and they're not natural, but it also embraces the social doctrine. It embraces the idea of tithing and there is no organization, putting aside the religious element, even the secular element,
exactly,
has done more for poor people and has done more for needy people historically and today than the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, their hospitals, their orphanages, their
Yeah.
old age homes,
Yeah.
all of the real work, the real infrastructure, the
Yeah.
Catholic charities. There is no one that's done more historically. I mean, it's a great model.
I am so happy you are saying this, because we are not saying it because otherwise it would look like we're praising ourselves, but the figures are there all over the world. When there is something, we're there, immediately.
Right.
Catholic charities, whatever, all kinds of charitable organizations, related to the church that do so much, to help.
Sure.
The earthquakes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
are immediately there,
And it's also just this incredible infrastructure in the United States and all
Yeah.
over the world, where
Yes.
they run these amazing institutions that are often unsung and that are doing actual work to help human beings. I mean, from birth to death. I mean, they just it's an incredible story.
Yes.
I want to bring it up to John Paul II, and when he visited Poland
Yes.
in 1989, I think it was, 79.
79.
He
Immediately.
held an outdoor mass that was literally the largest single gathering of human beings in the history of the world. Almost 1 million people stopped what they were doing and attended that mass. And that was the end of communism.
Yeah.
It was at that
Yes.
moment.
Yeah. That was
And
the
they knew it.
of
And they knew it.
of that wall that we call the Berlin Wall, 89. But that was actually started. Can you imagine thinking about? He was elected on, as I said, on the 16th of October 1978, and he decided to go almost immediately, not even a year, to his own country.
Yes.
Not because he wanted to go back to the country, but he knew what he was going to do.
They knew what he was doing. Yeah.
He did.
And it was shortly after that the Soviet Union sent in an assassin.
Right.
And it was shortly after that horrible incident that John Paul II met the assassin in his prison cell and basically absolved him.
Yeah, that's. I'm trying to say something about my book, because I'm trying to explain. I'll never forget. Actually, well, I was in my office when it happened. I had the two huge windows in front of St. Peter's Basilica, St. Peter's Square, and I'll never forget that moment. It was 5:20 in the afternoon, and we had the audience there because it was hot. So I had the open windows, and the usual noise of the crowds, whatever. And then all of a sudden, it stopped almost, and the cracks, whatever. I realized something was happening, and then I went down. But that was an incredible day, the 13th of May, 1981. However, the following year, Marvin Kalb, I don't know if you remember him, NBC, Marvin Kalb.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And he's now a professor at Harvard. He came, and we together actually helped him a lot to do 60 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Man who shot the Pope, and we have a lot of details in that kind of thing. That was really a horrible day, but was a beautiful day. It was a miracle actually, because how can you expect a sharpshooter at such a short distance not to kill you? I mean, it's incredible.
It was a miracle.
Aniachka never took into consideration the fact that the crowd, when the Pope was moving, the crowd would actually move towards the Pope because they wanted to touch him,
Sure.
And that's why most probably he was not as sharp as he thought he was. I mean, this is my own personal
I think that's
interpretation.
a good observation. And the other thing one of the things I also admire about John Paul II is that I think he was interviewed toward the end of his life. He was pretty elderly and he was fairly ill. And he wanted to demonstrate to the world how to die with dignity and how to carry on to the very end. And
Yes.
how to be relevant as an elderly person who's not in good health. And he would just, he knew, understood that it was, in a sense, a public image of life.
Yes.
And that he wanted to manifest that and did. And it was inspiring to everyone.
Yeah. Well, he had as you do know, he had the longest pontificate in the sense, the first one was a Jewish guy. His name was Peter. I don't know if you, whatever.
Oh, yes, I've heard of
He had the longest.
him.
Then from there, we
Well,
had.
we could say that actually the first pope was Jesus himself, who was a Jew.
No,
But
no,
that's
no,
another
no, no,
subject.
no, no, no. The first Pope was Saint Peter.
Okay.
Kinda. So actually, the second longest was Pius IX, who was elected in 1846, and he died in 1878.
And he was a great man in that he
was
wrote
a
a book.
wonderful man.
I believe
Wonderful.
that did he not write a book warning the world about masonry and secret societies?
You're right.
It's subject to go to. We don't need to go
All
into
these
that.
things, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different ball of wax, but it's a very interesting subject.
Yes.
So to bring things even further up to the present, then we have Pope Benedict, the first German to be Pope. At least in modern times, it might have been I don't know, in the Middle Ages, there might have been a German. And he also, to my way of thinking, came across as someone who wanted to be a little bit more conservative and bring the faith into a more traditional context.
Yes.
And then you seem to have known him. I would like you to talk about him and why did he resign?
Well,
I know I'm asking the tough questions, but
we used to
wanna
say,
know.
we young people, you are too young, but my generation used to say this is the $64,000 question,
Yeah.
Well, he really, well, I have to, I don't know whether, well, this is public, but he wanted to retire when he was a cardinal and prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine. Why? Because he had some problems with the heart. Let's not, this, we have very few people are putting in, this thing is very important to understand. His health was not great.
Understood.
And he had served as prefect of that very difficult dicastery for 27 years. So, in a way, he was right. And apparently, this I can tell you, one day he went to his friend, John Paul II. And I said,
Why not tell him?
I was there. So anyhow, and he told him, he said, well, Your Holiness, I would like to retire, because this is it, I would like to go back to my small town and write and finish. He was already preparing some on the life of Christ. He was preparing something. So anyhow, here is the elderly John Paul II, sick. And he said, no, no. So he in a way, actually, he knew that he was sick and said, well, as a matter of fact, at one point I said, Your Holiness, you should have said yes, because the poor man is sick, when he wants to do it, but he became Pope, and naturally 9 years as Pope. I don't wish to my worst enemy to be Pope today.
No, very strenuous job, of course. And it can really take a toll on a man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Age and the problem with the heart, and also all the other problems that he had to face during those 9 years of his pontificate. Because as you do know, 2013, until then, from 2005, so it's 8 years that and when he announced on February 11th, only a month before the election of the new Pope, the whole world was shocked.
I know.
That's but the reason must have been very personal, spiritually. You can imagine, how much he must have prayed to come to that shocking news for the whole world, you
No,
know.
no, it's unprecedented, and
Yeah,
that's why it sort of has a mystery about it. But
yeah,
you've shed a lot of light on that, and that makes sense.
yeah.
And then we have Francis, and I don't understand Francis. I mean, to me, I don't get it. I mean, I understand that I admire so much the office. It's the oldest office, one of the oldest offices in the world, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go back to the Roman kingdom, the pontiff has been in place
Yeah.
going back to the days of King Solomon. Uh, he seems to be, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be in sync with the traditions of the church. Now, again, I'm speaking here with absolute respect for him and for his office. But speaking as an outsider, some of the things that are attributed to him, I don't understand how they resonate or how they would be connected to any semblance of conventional church doctrine.
Well, let me give a general outlook, you know, in order to understand, you know, I mean, I'm a kid, an American kid, you know, and I voted for the first time for the second Eisenhower, so I go back, you know, but
Yeah.
me, did I agree with everything that all our presidents did ever since? Of course not, you know, but to me, they were my precedents.
Oh yeah.
Same thing I did with the popes. You know, I feel, you know, that Francis has a different nose from Benedict,
Yeah.
and from the other pope. So each one has its own formation. Each one has its own way of handling things. You know, my own personal opinion. I know Francis, but my own personal opinion, perhaps, is the fact that he became pope on a rather late age, so to speak. You know,
Mhm.
and and he had something in his mind long before he became pope, not knowing that he would become pope, and he wanted to put into action whatever he had in his mind. And he knew that. I mean, he knows that. I mean, we are not eternal. You know? I mean, we are eternal in a different way, you know. But so his life is kind of relatively short, you know, for what he would like to do, and that's why I think he's rushing things out. And we were not expecting to have this kind of I would say commotions, you know, that
It's created some turmoil, I think,
yes,
inside.
definitely,
Yeah.
you know, we have a, and so but still he's my pope. Am
Yes.
I like he's
Oh, absolutely. So he's the
but I, you
he's
know,
the vicar of Christ. I
yeah,
get it. He's the Bishop of Rome.
exactly, exactly.
That's the office. It's more than a man. I mean, as I said, this is one of the most important and most ancient of offices.
That is
And I have to respect that just like I respect the president, even
yeah,
if I didn't support him.
exactly.
It's just because I respect this country and I respect the office.
But it's the office, you know, that's very important. Even, you know, some of the things, you know, I have to confess that when he speaks and gives his beautiful speeches, they are down to earth, they are simple, understandable, and 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 that's the way I have been all my life, all my priesthood,
Well,
and
you're
my
American.
comments are like that, you know. And I feel like, hey, listen, you know, I would have said the same thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
But perhaps, you know, some of other things I might not,
Well,
you
it's
know.
like when you're Pope, though, you can oftentimes you say something too casual. It's like
Yes,
it's like that's the probably if you're the head of the Federal Reserve, you don't want to make too many comments because it could be we have a depression. I mean,
that
you
is
have to be
correct.
you have to watch a little bit what you say,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
when you're on airplanes. But,
definitely.
so anyhow, my guest is Monsignor Hilary Franco, and his book is now available at major bookstores, at Amazon Books. Six Popes, A Son of the Church Remembers. Um, Father Franco, just talk a little bit more because we're wrapping
I
up.
I want to thank my readers, because you know I was really so happy to find out that I was the book was #1 on the Amazon list
Oh, that's fantastic.
I was really I did not expect, but I guess it's the popes that really it is a simple way. My memories are easy to understand, and many of the people that have already made comments, they say, well, we did not expect, these kind of things. We don't know much about the popes. We don't know much about your formation in the seminary when you were a young American there, in a seminary in Rome, but all these things put together, they make it apparently, it seems that is getting to be very popular. But at one point, towards the end of the book, it's easy to read, by the way.
Yeah.
At the end of the book, I say, well, there are other things and other episodes in my life, many other episodes in my life. They are not contained in this book for two reasons. One, because I don't want to impose on my gracious reader, some of the things that I would like to say, and also because it's better that some of the things that I know would not be written.
Well, look, obviously you have a lot more to say, and I'm hoping
Yes.
you write a sequel and you go a little deeper into some of these stories, and we'd like to learn a little bit more about you and your spiritual experience and your growth and your formation and everything else. So I urge you to do that because you really have made a tremendous and monumental contribution with your book so far. And so, please continue onward and upward.
Well, I'm grateful to you, for it's such a pleasant conversation that I would like to go on and on. I mean, what a pleasure to be with you. It's really incredible.
I really enjoyed it too, and I'd like to do a follow up with you at some point as well. So
I'll be very happy to do it.
Wonderful.
At your disposal.
Thank you. All right. So thank you for joining me, Monsignor Franco. Again, the book is Six Popes, the Son of the Church Remembers by Monsignor Hilary C. Franco, available at all major bookstores, Amazon Books. Father Franco, thanks so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
A great pleasure to be with you. God bless you.